Hi, I'm here with my Tina Typodont. I'm going to be going over the UNC probe. To start, this is the handle of the probe that you would hold with your pointer finger and your thumb finger. You will place your middle finger on the shank right here, and this is the working end. Each of these black lines indicate a millimeter in probing depth length, and I'm going to demonstrate on here how you would read them. So once the first line disappears, we know we're at 2 millimeters. Once the second line disappears, we're at 3 millimeters. Once the third line disappears, we're at 4 millimeters, which brings us to this thick black band. Once the bottom of the thick black band disappears, we're at 5 millimeters, and once the top of the thick black band disappears, we're at 6 millimeters. Following that, once this line disappears, 7 millimeters, 8 millimeters, 9 millimeters. Once the bottom of the second thick black band disappears, we're at 10 millimeters. Once the top of that thick black band disappears, we're at 11 millimeters. The following band disappearing would indicate 12 millimeter probing depth, and then the following line disappearing would indicate 13 millimeter probing depth. We want to make sure that we are probing the tooth in 6 different sections, which are mesial buccal, cervical buccal, distal lingual, cervical lingual, and mesial lingual. For each of these sections, we're going to record the deepest probing depth. We're going to probe to find levels of clinical attachment loss, to record signs of inflammation such as bleeding, to see levels of recession, and to check for mobility. We will not probe if the patient is under age 14, if they're in current active orthodontic treatment, as there could be mobile periodontal ligaments, if the patient has newly erupted teeth, or if they have any known periapical pathologies. We're going to use a light pressure when probing, as we don't want to damage the gingiva, so we know we're at the junctional epithelium once we see tissue blanching. We're going to keep the probe always angled towards the apex of the tooth as we follow along here, so it will wind up being like a pizza shape as we go along each tooth. We want to make sure that the probe is tilted away from the tooth so it can reach up into the sulcus. If it's just parallel to the tooth, it won't get into the sulcus. And we want to make sure that as we're going interproximally, once we get as interproximal as we are able to, we will tilt the probe 10 to 15 degrees into the coal space to record that measurement. So we're going to start by probing from the buccal of tooth 1. This Typodont is missing its wisdom teeth, so it doesn't have it on here, but from tooth 1 to 16 buccal, I switch over, lingual from 16 back to 1. Then we're going to drop down and do the buccal of 32 to 17, flip around, do the lingual of 17 to 32. It's important that you want to be reading the probing depths as you are probing each section, and you want to record the deepest depth in each of the 6 sections on the tooth. So I'm going to demonstrate here how I would probe. For this Typodont, the probe goes all the way up into the gingiva. Hopefully my patient would not have such deep probing depths. But I'm going to start here from the distal line angle, work my way distally, record the deepest depth. We'll say that is 5 millimeters. Tilt it and record the into the coal space 10 to 15 degrees, record the deepest probing depth. Remove the probe, reinsert at distal line angle, move it to mesial line angle, keeping it pointed toward the apex of the tooth, record the deepest depth, and continue moving mesially to the interproximal and tilt it 10 to 15 degrees to record the deepest depth there as well into the coal space. Next, I'm going to show between the 2 central incisors. So here we're going to, maybe it's easier if I do this way. Okay, so here I'm going to do from the distal line angle, distally, tilt 10 to 15 degrees into the coal space, remove the probe, distal line angle to mesial line angle, record the deepest depth, mesial line angle mesially, and tilt 10 to 15 degrees, recording the deepest depth for all of those 3 sections. For the next tooth, which crosses at the midline, I'm going to start from the mesial line angle and work my way mesially to interproximally, tilting 10 to 15 degrees to get the coal space depth, remove the probe, reinsert it at the mesial line angle, work my way to the distal line angle, and continue going interproximally tilt mine 10 to 15 degrees into the coal space, and record all the depths for those. Once I get all the buckles, I'm going to start on the lingual, and again, here I'm going to start from the distal line angle, distally, distal line angle, mesial line angle, mesial line angle, mesially, and then once I cross back over here, I will be going from the mesial line angle, mesially, mesial line angle to distal line angle, distally. Then I'm going to come back around and work on the buckle starting at 232, which this Typodont does not have, so we're going to go to 31 and start distally and work my way back. Start the distal line angle, work my way back distally. Once I get as deep as I can there, or as far into proximity as I can, tilt 10 to 15 degrees, remove the probe, reinsert at distal line angle, rock my probe to the mesial line angle, keep going, record that depth, and keep going as far into proximal as I can get, tilting the probe 10 to 15 degrees into the coal space again. Same thing for down here at the midline, it's going to switch over, so I'm going to be starting from the mesial line angle, working mesially, tilt my probe, mesial line angle to distal line angle, and distal line angle into proximally in the distal direction, tilting my probe 10 to 15 degrees into that coal space. So I'm going to do that for each tooth and get each of these 6 readings for each tooth. Okay, thank you.